Hi, everybody. So in this particular group critique, what we're going to do is we're going to look at everybody's project and see where everyone's at with their photo collection. And what you were doing is putting together a collection of photographs that correlated to your sketch. So each part of your sketch, you would have a photograph that would be used to build that part of your sketch. Uh, and the assignment asks for a minimum of 5 photographs, so I always recommend that you go over that. And if you just have 5 objects that, which make your character, which is just fine if you only have 5 objects, but to exceed the number of photographs for your collection, just have some duplicates of your various objects. Why not? Oftentimes you'll find that the photograph that you may have thought would be really ideal doesn't quite work. Um, and so it's good to have just a few more choices. Um, as I said in my notes in the learning path on choosing photographs, I just want to remind everybody you can choose your photographs from any resource that you like. You're not restricted in any way. So Google Images, Flickr, stock photo sites, your own photos, whatever you want to do is fine as long as they're good quality photographs, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Any source is fine. I don't restrict photographic use in this class just because, again, this is a foundational class. There's lots of time to kind of learn more about copyright and things like that. I feel in this class it's really important to get a good photograph or good photographs that work for your project. Um, and like I mentioned again, like last week, you will definitely find when it comes to photographs that it's going to be the rare person that uses only the photographs that they've chosen this week. You will find that you're going to be continuing to kind of maybe search for things as you go through the class and replace things if you need to, depending upon, just how you see your character being built for various reasons. Like as you go through, you think, hey, this particular element is really just not as great as it could be, and you go and look for a better photograph. So keep that in mind, be flexible. Um, Okay, I think that's all the things I wanted to say at this point. Um, I'm going to actually talk a little bit here in my group critique coming up next. I actually wanted to talk about what high resolution photos are. So I don't know if there's some really excellent pages in the learning path this week, and I really recommend that you kind of go through them, even if you don't do a really close read of them, that you do skim through them so you know the material, or you have a sense of it. I actually wanted to just review the idea of resolution just for a few minutes here because I do feel it's a really important principle that everybody, no matter whether you work in Photoshop in the future or something else, it's really, I think, important to understand this concept. So that's what I want to do next. So if you're really, good with resolution, you know it inside and out, feel free to skip over this and head over to the group critique section. But um, otherwise, just listen in. I'll try to make this as, concise as possible. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and I have exactly the same apple here. The only difference here is the size of the image. So this image at the top, if you look at it, can you see how nice and clear and detailed it is? That is a function of the fact that it is what we would call a higher resolution image. And high or low resolution is really a relative term. But if we look here, if I click on this little uh, bar at the bottom of the image, you can see the width and the height here in pixels. And you can see that there's like many thousands worth of pixels in both dimensions. Okay, so this is actually a really high resolution image. For your particular project, you don't actually necessarily have to have something this big, but if you do, that's fine. But anything, I would say over about 1,000 on any one dimension will give you a pretty good image for the purposes of this project. And that's really key because when I say for this project, every project you work on, may have its own kind of parameters for what size of image you need to locate. Okay, now look at the bottom image and notice the difference. It's the same image, but can you see how different that image looks? Down here, can you see this little ragged edge and how kind of, it just doesn't look very good. This is what we would call a pixelated image. Pixelated just means that we can actually start to see the pixels. And the pixels, hold on a second here, the pixels are those little squares in there. Can you see that? Those little squares they're always going to be a solid color, and they're the smallest unit that you can break any photograph down to. Okay, so the more pixels you have, the better quality of an image. Okay, and I'm going to show you here just the size of this particular image. It's pretty small. It's 170 by 116 pixels. That's a really small image that would not work for our particular project, just probably because, the better quality your images are, and quality means a lot of different things, but size is definitely one of those things, the better Photoshop will work on those images and the better quality your end product. This little ragged edge here is very hard to work with when you try to do selections because Photoshop can't figure that out. So that's one reason that we tend to not want to use low resolution images for a lot of work. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention is that what happens if you have an image like this, can you make it bigger? Can you make this image bigger? Like, can you turn this image into this image up at the top? And the answer is no. The answer, because Photoshop cannot add in extra pixels. I mean, technically it can add them in. You can force Photoshop to do that, but it doesn't make your image any bigger. So it's always better to start with an image that's higher quality. You can always make it smaller in Photoshop, but you can't do the opposite. Okay? Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is the idea of resolution. So resolution, now if I click on this image, if you look at the bottom there, it says the resolution is 300 pixels by pixels per inch. And if you look at that and you think, hey, that's a really good quality image, and it actually is true of this image, but it's not because it has 300 pixels per inch. It's actually true because of the sheer number of pixels in the image under the width and the height. You see that the top two lines? That's what tells us that this is a good quality image, not the bottom resolution, because we can actually take any image and make it any resolution we want based on the number of pixels that exist in the actual image. And if we go to the bottom one, I want to show you something really interesting here. So let's click down here. Look down at the bottom line. You see the resolution there? It's exactly the same. It's 300 pixels by per inch. So if you looked at that, you would think, hey, that's a really high resolution image. Why doesn't it look very good? That's because it has very few number of pixels in it. And I'm actually, if you notice up here, I'm actually have enlarged it up to 500% so that we can actually see it. Whereas this one up here, have you noticed, can you see that? It's at 16.7%. So it's actually pretty, like I've condensed it to fit on this screen. Okay, so just to summarize, resolution is not really the best way to figure out if an image is going to work for your purposes, because you can change that in Photoshop. It really is the number of pixels. Okay, and you can find the number of pixels just by, if you have something from the internet and you download it, open it up into Photoshop, do what I did right here, which is just click on the bottom here, and then you can see it, or you can go up to, this is above the image menu, I'm sorry, above the recording screen, but if you go into the menu and go to image and image size, you can also see the same information. You can also make changes here if you need to. For this class, I don't think you're going to need to actually make any changes here because that all can be done in the editing process within Photoshop. So, if you have high resolution images, great, just use them as is and Photoshop will handle them. Okay, let me know if you have any questions, but I hope this has helped and that you find this useful for your working with photographs. Okay, let's get started. So I was just in Photoshop and now I'm in Adobe Acrobat. I'm going through all the programs today, the Adobe programs. And the reason why I am now in Adobe Acrobat is just because everybody's submitting the assignment in PDFs. So it's a good place to look at them. And just to note that, we're putting together these PDFs for a couple of assignments, week 1 and week 2, just because PDFs allow you to combine a lot of images together. So it's really a handy format. But you're going to be using the JPEGs that you downloaded, your photographs that you downloaded for next week. So wherever you have your collection of photographs on your computer, that's what you're going to be using. You're not going to need to use the PDF anymore, except if you need to do any revisions to it this week. Okay, so let's see here. Austin, okay, this is your um, your guy, which is, I can't remember now the character. Let's see, it's made out of food. Anyhow, I can't remember, but I thought this was a really cute character because of the wings, and you've got like 5 different objects here. So let's just look at your images here. So we're going to start with the tomato. That looks good. So you can actually, you can actually start to see if an image is going to work for the assignment just because when you show it on a big size, and this is a fairly big image size, like on it's in terms of on my screen, you can see, how detailed it is, that everything looks in focus, the little water droplets look really, very detailed and clear. I'm actually going to use a little, just a viewing device here on Adobe, in Adobe Acrobat. You don't have to worry about this. I just want to look here, just double check the pixels. And we can see here, let's see if you can see this here. Oops, right here. That it is 199.6 by 1596. So that's really, as I mentioned before, anything above approximately 1,000 pixels is going to be a really good image. So I think that works well. I'm going to take this off to the side just to get it out of the way. And I'll just be looking at everything and just making sure. Yeah, this looks good too. This is a great image. Nice. This one is 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Lettuce, good. And then the raisin. So this, yeah, I think this raisin will be pretty good. The one thing I would be a little concerned about is that it's getting a little blurry back here, which is actually, it looks beautiful from a photographic point of view, but when you come to select it, you'll notice that when things are a little blurry, they can be harder to select. Let's go back to your very first image here. But the eyes are made, so the eyes are pretty small, so that might not be a problem. So I would just keep it in there. So I think you're on the right track here. I think all of your images look really good. I would just say maybe add a couple more, choices, like maybe another example of some lettuce. I think actually lettuce would be a good choice because this lettuce is good, but you could probably keep finding other examples of lettuce leaves that maybe have a little more shadow on them. Can you see how flat this looks? That's just the nature, the reason why it looks flat is because there's not any shadow happening on it. Whereas if we look at this one here, can you see how there's light and dark on here? Right? Shadow, highlights, that makes it look very round and three-dimensional. So maybe find an example or, another example of some lettuce leaves. Whatever you want, you can just pick a few more examples here. Why not? Just to kind of go beyond your 5 minimum. And have a few more options. All right, that's the only thing I'd recommend that you do here. Okay, Troy. Okay, yeah, there's your sketch. That looks really good. And then this is going to be for the eye. See, for the eye. Um, that's a great idea. So this one, you could maybe, so this one is 640 by 485. I might try maybe getting a slightly bigger image here if you can. Uh, and this looks really good. This is nice. So in addition to size, I just want to mention the other thing I always look for is, is it well photographed? Does it have good lighting? Which I think these all do. This is a great one too. Nice. Um, those are all really helpful things to have. Let's see here. So this one maybe is a bit small, this spoon, and this is also a bit small. Can you see it's 512 by 584, 384? So I might see if you can like replace these two with a little bit more, better quality images. Let me show you a quick way to search Google Images if you want to. And again, I'm letting everybody, find images wherever you want to just for this class. But let me show you a quick way to find images on Google Images by size. So silver spoon, let's do that one. And hopefully this will also help other folks. So I'm going to just type in silver spoon here. And I'm going to go into images. Okay, so this is like Google Images it has a lot of good images, a lot of not so good images. It's kind of up to you to kind of sort through them. One of the first things I would do before you spend any time um, looking through these is go to the tool setting, go to size, and again, if you use Google Images, and select larger than. And you can just select this one right here, 1024 by 768, because that'll give you an image that's automatically going to be big enough for this particular project. And then you can just kind of go through and see, some photographs are going to be nicer than others, but some of them, I think are pretty good these days, especially for common objects. That's a nice one. So you can kind of go through there, maybe pick a few of them, or you know, uh, uh, or wherever get, don't feel like you have to use Google Images. Of course, you can use any source that you want to. Just double check those pixels to make sure that they are just a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. Otherwise, I think this is looking really good, and you're on the right track. Okay, Nelson. So let's see. There is your character, right? Plate, pot, protein powder, spoon, spatula's good. Okay, let's look through your images here. Okay, all right. Yeah, so it looks like you photographed these yourself. The thing when you photograph things yourself is you almost always are going to have a high resolution image because, again, that's what your camera tends to want to take, what the settings are when you have a camera, is they typically are on the high side, which is good. Um, it's always when you start finding things on the internet that they often have been downsized just for being on the internet. So, yeah, these look good. Nice. Well, that's a good one too. So why is this one good? Well, there's a few reasons. When you have like a bottle, like, and you said protein powder, a lot of times bottles will have labels and writing on them and graphics, and those tend to not work so well for the project because they kind of sort of in a way take attention away from the character. So having just a simple bottle like this is really good. And I also like the light and dark on it. The lighting is very good here. It gives it a lot of roundness. This is good. That's a really good one too. Oh, that's good too. Yeah, all of these look great. So to me, I think you're good to go with these. Now, I would just, your collection looks really good at this point, and just keep in mind though that when we start putting things together next week or future weeks, if you need to or want to change any of these based upon how you're developing your character, feel free to do that. And also if you have an idea in your mind for a certain object that you don't have yourself in terms of taking a photograph, feel free to add in photographs that you find on the internet. You can easily mix, your own and stuff that you have found in this particular project. Okay? All right, good job. Claire, so this is your character, and let's see. Having a little bit of trouble seeing the objects that you're working with. So you may just want to photograph, even when I zoom in here, I'm not able to read them. So I'd love to kind of know what you're using here. Like what are you using to build the head, the arm, the body, the skirt, the legs? Okay, so I'd like you to either label these or redraw them so that you get a sense of what the objects are going to look like. Okay? Now, if you need some examples of that, you can feel free to look back to last week to see some examples of character sketches. But essentially, you just want to draw each object and build it. So when we get to your images, uh, this particular image, I'm not sure how it relates to your character, like what, so you don't need to worry about backgrounds or anything happening around the character. You just want elements that are going to be built for the character. So I might, again, start with your character design and then I would go back, like, is this going to be a leg or an arm or a head? What is it going to be? Um, Same with this one. I don't really have a sense of what these are all going to be used to build. Okay, let me know if you have any questions about this, but feel free to go back to last week. But hopefully just this group critique will really help you understand the project a little bit more. And then when you're choosing photographs, make sure that they're a little higher resolution. These are all a little bit small. When I look on my end, they're, they're only a few hundred pixels large. This is the biggest one here. So you want them a little bit bigger. Okay, so keep working on this. I think with a little bit more attention to this, you can have a really cute project. Okay, hi Alexandria. So in your assignment, you've got a lot of images, which is fantastic. It's always good to have a lot of images. One thing that I'm not seeing here is the sketch, and so I'd really love to see that. So you just want to include that in your PDF, or if you can't for some reason get it into the PDF, you know, include it separately just to give you us an idea, or of what you're going to be, what you're building. Um, and let's see, for your images, just kind of putting through, see, looking through all of them. So in all of your images, I think, let's see if they're all a tiny bit small. This is actually, this is okay. This is 800 by 800. It's a little small, but that's okay. This one is a little small too, but I think it's going to be okay because it's a smaller element. Um, so I would just, this one, can you see can you see the pixelation around this edge and what kind of all these wavy marks in here? That's because it's a really small image. If you look here, right here, it's 200 by 160. So it's actually, I think, a really beautiful image if it were in focus. Same with this one. It's really quite small. So take the feedback that I had before on, finding um, higher quality images and use that for all of what you've chosen here. There's all of your images. I know you can find a good replacement in Google Images. I demonstrated that with Troy's assignment. So take a look at that. Go to Google Images. Make sure that you choose the size tool so that you get larger images, and then just go through and find some replacements for all of these. I think pretty much all of them. This one I think you can keep. This you can keep. I don't know what this is going to be building. If it's a really small element that you might be able to keep it, uh, I would replace this one too. It looks a little blurry, and this one too. Um, in general, the larger the object is in your character design, like heads and bodies, um, the larger the image should be. Okay, so keep working on this. I think that you just need to do a little more searching for bigger images. Okay, Elizabeth, Rock and Rhapsody Roy. Okay, so you have a tape, cassette, mariachi or castanets. I think those are the right words for these. For the arms, and then you've got something here for the legs. For the head, you want to make sure that you're using an object rather than, well, let's see the photographs you have, but you want to make sure that you're always working with photographs rather than drawings. So let's take a look here. Okay, yeah, this is good. It's actually a tiny bit small, but it's so clear. I think it would work. It's got a lot of detail here, so I'm going to say that's going to work. Um, this one's a bit small. I can tell already that it's only, can you see all the blurriness in here? So you want a bigger image here. Um, this one too is a little blurry. Can you see how it's kind of blurry these images are? That's just because it's a small image, but you should easily be able to find another replacement on the internet if you look at Google Images. This is also too small, and this is a symbol, so you can't use that. But maybe there's something else you could use for the head, like I don't know, a drum, something round, or maybe a speaker. I'm thinking a stereo speaker, one of those, a symbol. I know there's a lot of kind of things that would work as a head, I think. So you just brainstorm that. So you want to change your sketch here, just erase all that out and put your new element in here when you submit it. Okay, Jolene. All right, yeah, here's your sketch. Nice sketch, very clear. And so this guy here, this is a cute little photograph, but it's pretty small. Can you see how kind of blurry it is? So I keep looking for something. And I love the idea of the trash bag with the jack-o'-lantern on it, but you also might want to experiment with maybe just a jack-o'-lantern if you can't find, I mean, this is such a specific image, like there aren't many around like this. So if you can just find a jack-o'-lantern like that's made out of a pumpkin, feel free to replace it. You can always tweak your sketch just a little bit. Um, this is good, nice size, great. Can you see how pixelated this one looks? So it's very small, it's 159 pixels on the width. So This is going to be easy to replace. And don't worry about the color too much. You know, if you want a green dustbin, we can change that later. So, you know, just find a nice, good quality dustbin at the right size and, you know, bigger size, and that will work. This one too, this is a great image, but it's got this watermark over it. And it's also quite small. And it's really hard. You know, some things we can correct in Photoshop, but taking a watermark off is always a little hard. So I'd find something else. And this one is a great image in terms of the visual, like how it looks, but find something a bit bigger. This is also quite small and pixelated. So keep looking. I think this one is a terrific image, and this is what you should aim for, is a big image. This is, I think, about 1300 pixels in this dimension. And you can see when I look at it right away, I can tell it's a good quality image. It's photographed well. It's going to be a really, you know, nice asset to your character. Okay, so that's what I'd like you to work on a little bit more. That's great. So you made a change here to the arms to microphones. I would just revise your sketch just to reflect that a little bit more. You know, you can just erase that out and tweak it a little bit. Um, okay, so that's a nice image, and it's a good size, I think. This is good too. Very nice. Um, This microphone is a little small. Can you see how when we went from this image, how clear it is, to this image and how kind of wavy and pixelated the details are? I'd find something else. Now this particular image, I think there is a higher resolution image out there on the internet. So you might want to just do a search for this particular image. You know, like put this into a Google image, you know, Google image search. If you type in Google image search, it'll take you to a page where you can actually upload a JPEG and find other versions of it on the internet. So you might be able to find this exact one at a higher resolution. Your version is about 223 by 279, so you want to get something a bit bigger. Um, this one looks, it's a little small. Yeah, I might go over something a little bit bigger if you can. There's a little bit of blurring in here. You see right through here. So find something else that's a bit bigger. Um, this looks great. Okay, so just replace a few if you can too. You know, you have 5 photographs. You can go above that. Just, you know, if I see people have, you know, 7 or 8 good quality photographs and you know the characters, everything's in line, then that to me is an automatic full points. You know, I just look whether people have been trying to really create a good collection. And so if you do that, you can easily, um, you know, get a really good score on this project, and that's true for everybody. And yes, all of these images, you know, the photographs we have, we're going to manipulate in, um, you know, various ways down the road. So you're right, you know, and so having just a good quality raw photograph, we can always make changes to the color, to the hue, you know, to make it more saturated or less saturated, all kinds of things we can do in Photoshop, which we're going to be working with. So let's see here. So, okay, here's your character. Great. Okay, that's a great image. It's nice and high resolution. And this one too, good. So this one here, okay, so this is a really beautiful image. It's high resolution. The thing that I would be concerned about is what is it that you're going to be able to select here? You know, you always want to have some type of edge. Like in this, let me see if I can get a really, so this one, can you see the edges around here? This will be a really good photograph to select because you'll be able to just pull that flower out of here. Okay, so for this one right here, let's see this. So if you find a photograph that would naturally give you that edge, that's what you want to have. Um, Same with the tree branch. Now I'm looking at your tree branch arms. Somehow you want to have like a branch that's really easy to select. This is a beautiful photograph, but I don't see anything in here that you could actually select. So look for that. Look for, you know, something that would, you know, for this one right here, like maybe you could select one of these flowers, you know. I would, it's a beautiful photograph. There's a lot of blurring, intentional blurring on this photograph to make it more artistic. which is great for this photograph, but it may be hard to actually select something out of here that's going to work. So I might just, so this is, I think this is a terrific one right here. So I might think about the other ones, this is going to work too, in relation to that, being able to select something. What were you making the eyes and the lips out of? Leaves? Let's see. Uh, and what about the feet? I don't seem to be able to get, hold on a second. Rain boots. So you had some rain boots that you were going to select, and there are your tree trunks, tree branches. So just make sure that you have everything here. I see a bunch of other elements here that are missing. So keep working on this with the feedback that I've mentioned. And yeah, I think you'll be in good shape. Margaret, let's see here. Um, Lime juice container, margarita glass, party hat. So, so I would say that anything outside of your character, you don't need to have in your, you just want to have the character itself. So you don't need to have the tortilla, as cute as that might be. I would skip that for now. That's something you can think about later when we add the background and just focus on the character itself. Um, Flip-flop wine coaster, okay. And okay, all right. So you might want to like I'm still struggling a little bit to actually see your character. I would love to see this just redrawn a little bit more clearly. Like, I don't even have to use a pencil, like maybe a marker so you can get some nice clear lines, do some block lettering here, rephotograph it so it's a little bit clear, not so kind of yellow. It really helps a lot presentation wise. Okay, that was your um yeah, okay, that looks good. Yeah, that's really nice too. It looks like you took these yourself. Great. That's a good image too. I'm a little concerned about the detail on here, the graphics. If you can find a like a flip-flop that doesn't have those details, I think that would look a lot better. Like just a simple like flip-flop, without branding or anything like that. If you just need to find something on the internet, this looks good too. If you can find something that's maybe it's a little so we're losing a little bit of detail here. Maybe just rephotograph it and a little bit of with a little bit more less lighting on it could be like to bring this to life a little bit more. Keep it for now. We'll see how it works. Maybe we can fix it later. This looks good. Yeah, that's cute too. Okay, so you got some great images. One, two, three, four, five, six. So I would say that's the only one I would work with is the flip-flop. I think that's the only thing you need to really potentially change. And then your drawing. So I think you're in good shape. That's all you need. I think all of your images are in high resolution and will work for this assignment. Okay, Nilda. Oh, from the local supermarket. That's great. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so here's your character. That's a really yeah, good drawing. And yeah, I these all, so they're all high resolution. They're actually really nice photographs. The only thing I'm a little concerned about with the ones in packaging is how it's Photoshop's going to maybe have a hard time selecting those because they have the plastic over them. So I would say use the internet to find some of these images. Like this, I think will probably work. We can remove maybe the Chiquita logo later on. Um, but I would sort of say these are all going to be hard to select. Like this one, like we want a nice big bacon strip, right? And how are we going to select that from this image because everything is sort of overlapping and covered. So I would like just go to Google Images, which is, my friend, and, just do a search for um, bacon strip and, then use that trick of larger than that we just did. And you can see there's tons of bacon strips there. You can just pick one that you like, that has the whole thing. showing. You want the whole strip. That's a cute one, if you can call bacon cute. Just to make sure that you've got really good images that are going to select. And I think you did a wonderful job here at these photographs. And I love the story. And these are really pretty photograph. I could almost see printing and framing this because it's just very interesting color and composition. But for this assignment, you do really, really want to have your objects really clear so that you can select them, so that they don't have anything around them or covering them. And then I think it'll really make your character come to life. Okay, so yeah, that's what I would work on.